That fight continues tonight at Rugby Park. We're live with Kilmarnock against Rangers from the Bank of Scotland Scottish Premier League. The incentive of a place in the Tennent Scottish Cup final lineup is enough to keep Rangers players hungry. And there's an incentive for Kilmarnock too. If they avoid defeat tonight, Rugby Park will become the only ground on which Rangers haven't won in the league this season. Charlie Nicholas is here as usual, and we've been joined tonight by the SPL Chief Executive Roger Mitchell to take stock of his first 2 seasons in office and look ahead to what year 3 might hold. The blueprint for the future of Scottish football was unveiled on the 8th of September 1997.
We've agreed as a 10 to work together jointly to secure what it says in the board behind me, a brighter future for Scottish football.
A special general meeting of the Scottish Football League endorsed the retiral of the top 10 clubs in a vote involving all 40 senior clubs.
As you know, gentlemen, today the clubs and membership of the Scottish Football League met in general meeting to consider resolutions received from the 10 clubs currently in the Premier Division. These resolutions were to retire from membership of the Scottish Football League, and I can confirm to you that all 10 resolutions were successful.
The Scottish Football League Management Committee ratified the decision, and work began to establish the SPL in time for season 1998-99. In July 1998, Roger Mitchell was appointed as Chief Executive of the Scottish Premier League. Well, Roger Mitchell, quite simply, have you achieved as much as you hoped for in the last 2 years?
Well, I think we have, Jim. If you consider what we wanted to do, the leading clubs wanted to establish a direction that was different from the way Scottish football was heading. And in the last 2 years we've certainly established our political identity, and we're in control of our own destiny, if you want. In terms of income generation, we've been very successful, and we really take that for granted now. In terms of exposing the game, we've done very well, but most of all, in terms of getting the clubs to invest in youth development, we're starting to see the fruits just now, and that's been a major success.
Charlie, has this man and his team that surrounds him, has he done enough?
The honest answer for me at the moment is no. I'm sure it's more difficult for Roger than it certainly is for me to stand and I'll sit and talk about it. I want things done quick. Everybody knows that. I mean, me as well as many others, especially fans. I mean, it's a hard process for Roger. I understand that, and it's not him, it's under scrutiny. I just want progress. I want things to improve. I think under the way that I look at the English game, I don't know if Roger would agree with this, but it's came on. It's a far more exciting league now, and they don't always have big teams in the Premiership. I would just like that, in particular the academy, which I've been on about for 4 years. We've only been 2 years into our own contract here, and we keep harping on. Roger, I just have to say about this academy, I know you've been pushing it for as much as what we have, but you know, we still hear them tatter and talk, and it's going to be built here. Are they going to eventually do it?
Well, certainly, you know that there's 7 or 8 clubs that are very close to breaking ground in this.
Is it going to happen though? I mean,
absolutely, definitely going to happen. We've got the government in terms of the partnership and trying to help fund it. It will happen. I remember being asked about it at the start 2 years ago, and now we can see it happening, and the crop of young players we've got is probably the best we've had for many years.
The thing is, Roger, let's look at, when you look at the league table right now and how it stands, you see how difficult it is for you to get your message across. You've got runaway leaders in Rangers and no relegation. So where is the sense in that?
Well, if you think about the league table, we've had a Rangers team that's made marvellous progress over the last 2 years. Celtic have had a difficult couple of seasons. The Hearts team that was progressing is basically changed and is in a transformation. Aberdeen have underperformed. So, you know, in terms of the league, that's not something that, in terms of results, we can do very much about.
But those 2 aspects I mentioned, the runaway leadership, no relegation, it clouds other issues, doesn't it?
It does. And remember, this is about the long-term solution for Scottish football, and what we've been introducing, you'll see the results of that. Maybe long after the SPL has gone on to another form, what we're putting down the foundations for, the benefits will be seen for years to come.
The thing is, if you look at a club like Livingston, was there ever an opportunity for you to say to them, well, you do qualify in terms of ground specification, so you're in the playoffs? You've got a chance.
I don't think that would have been fair. We always get accused of moving the goalposts. What we've never done is actually move the goalposts. We set out the rules 2 years ago. They didn't get in the top 3, so I think it would have been extremely unfair to put them in the playoffs.
What if that happens? I mean, for instance, if I give you an example, like Euro 8 years ago, the European Championships. I think it's Yugoslavia missed out. I mean, in a way, Falkirk have been disqualified. Now, in any other sport, if you're disqualified, whoever's next in line, they get promotion for that. I mean, a lot of people are saying to me, now, I mean, that's okay punishing. I don't have a great deal of sympathy for Falkirk. They've been long enough to understand what the structure's going to be, Roger. So there's no big sympathy there. But you would think the next in line is not through a bit of merit. It's not their fault Falkirk aren't got the structure right. Was it not be right that Livingston, who have got the structure right, who are very positive indeed, had the right to go and challenge Aberdeen and the other team for a playoff?
I can understand what you're saying, Charlie, but I just don't think you can move the goalposts in the middle of the season, because if you'd make an exception there, somebody else says, well, what about us for this other this other thing that we would want different as well, and why can't we ground share? If you have to set your rules, you have to be unpopular and keep them all the way through.
And you've got to stick to your rules, is what you're saying.
Well,
Roger,
so.
let's look ahead to next season, and here is how it exactly shapes up. Now, we've 12 teams: Aberdeen, Celtic, Dundee, Dundee United, Dunfermline, Hearts, Hibernian, Kilmarnock, Motherwell, Rangers, St Johnstone and St Mirren. Now, they'll play each other 3 times, and at the end of the third round of matches, they'll split into 2 leagues of 6, retaining the points they've already accumulated. Now, the top 6 will then play each other once more to decide the championship and European places. The bottom 6 will play each other once more to settle the relegation issue. The team that finishes bottom will be relegated and replaced by the champions of the Scottish Football League. Now, Roger, the most contentious issue there is a split. So why are they playing each other 3 times as opposed to 2? They'll get sick of each other.
Well, looking at splitting after 2, the difficulty there is that you're condemning a club to a season of failure by Christmas, when if they had a very positive second half to the season, like Dundee have had a couple of times, they're being prevented from benefiting from that. The split that late at 3 allows teams to basically run the course of their season and achieve what they have to achieve in that time.
What about the people, Roger, and that are out there who don't approve of the split at all? I mean, how far away are we from a 16-team top league? 30 games.
But the thing about the 16-team league is, do we have the quality for it? Because if we're going to 16, you need another 2 outside at least to be able to challenge to get into it. So that's 18. And most of the people I've spoken to don't believe we've got that quality in Scottish football just now. And you've always got to remember that quality is translated into commercial values, and if we want to progress the game, we have to make sure that there's as few meaningless games as possible. So,
Charlie, the way it's planned is a split right in its current state?
Well, I'd said a couple of weeks ago that I'm not sure about it, but I have to be fair and give them time, because I don't have a solution. They have to make a decision on it. I don't. It's an easy exercise for me to be critical. I'm not critical of it, but I do believe there is a few grey areas. I think, is there such a difference between 12 and 14? That's the way I look at it. If it's such a difference, I do think we have 14. I believe, like Roger, I don't think we have a strong enough 18 yet. Probably even not a strong enough 16. I just think 14 makes a little bit more sense. You could play each other twice, then you could split up into 2 sevens. One would get a rest every now and then, and you would play each other twice again, another 6 games. So you're really only playing, 34 games in total, which is 2 less than we currently have. Roger can't do this. I want to dismiss the Scottish League Cup. I don't think it's worthwhile anymore. Roger doesn't have the power to do that. But I think it's time that our bigger clubs started to look. We want progress. That's what we want. We want it more entertaining. And we have to get the other team, be it 12, 8, 10, closer to the 2 Old Firm. As soon as we can get that, then we're making progress.
Roger, what we do know is it's a cutthroat league, and there are plenty of foreigners playing in that league now. So how difficult is it for a youngster to come through now? Is this very much in your mind? This must be a priority, surely.
It is a priority, as we've said before, and we are seeing the players coming through more and more, the young players. This year we've seen more presence of the under-21 players than ever before.
I mean, Barry Ferguson leads the way, but he's an exception, or is he?
No, I don't think he is. We could go through club by club, whether it's Motherwell, Kilmarnock tonight, Celtic, Hibs. There's a boy behind Kenny Miller, McManus, who apparently is even better. The crop is fantastic.
I mean, he is the obvious choice, isn't he? Barry Ferguson, he does lead the way. Roger's saying the crop is fantastic. Do you agree with that?
Not yet. I think it's looking a bit more promising than it was certainly 2 years ago. I take that point.
I mean, what has a player like Ferguson done for the league this season?
Well, I have to say, I mean, I know under the SPL that they would claim assurance that they were part of the reason he's came through the system. Barry was before that system, and I think actually he defied the system for me. I think under Walter Smith he found himself a little confused. but I think he progressed under Dick Advocat, who's a clever coach, and he's decided that he has strengths that can work within his team pattern and shape. That boy's the best in the country at that level, but I'm led to believe Roger Rangers have others, don't they?
Well, they've got another one in the under-21 team called Hughes, who apparently is another one in the making.
And this fellow on the
That's
other
good.
side of the country, I mean, Roger, we've seen this chap on Sunday nights in our Sky Live games. He does that so often. And now this must give you great cause for optimism, I suppose.
It does, and if you think that he took a while out at Stenhouse Muir to hone those skills, it comes back to what we were saying about feeder clubs.
Yeah.
We have to keep challenging all the time the reason why we don't look at these areas. And you know, the finish that we see here from Kenny Miller is just fantastic, and as I say, there's more of them in the pipeline.
I mean, when you travel about, Roger, as you do, you're all over the country promoting Scottish football, I know that.
That's a great goal.
Do you
Great
talk
finish.
about people like Barry Ferguson and Kenny Miller and Mark Burchill, for example? Are they on your thoughts all the time when you're pushing the game in a forward-looking way?
Well, really, these are football issues that I'm, I think, always attentive to not put my nose into, but I hear the manager saying to me, you should look at this boy, you should look at that one. And, you know, the results, frankly, are there now, and the ones they've said to me 9 months ago, you'll wait and see what this one does. We can now see the results. You know, Craney at Celtic's a good example of that.
Yeah.
I think there's others to come through. I think it is the best for a few years now, which is, you know, not before time. We've waited long enough to let these youngsters come out, and I've been critical of most coaches in the past. Burchill again has come through the system. He's taken his time to become a regular number one, but the people that benefit overall is the national team. That's who starts to get the benefits.
Yeah.
It's not just the clubs themselves, so it's high time that the clubs, the people, even the SFA and their coaching methods, you know, it's time that they looked at SPL and everybody else can introduce talent that will benefit everybody.
And we touched on it earlier, Roger, but this is a key thing, isn't it? The Youth Academy. If we're going to progress at club level and at national level, these academies have got to be good, haven't they? And in place.
They do, and if you
they've got to be built.
If you look at the remit of the SPL in simple terms, it's to take the monies that we're generating today and invest them for the future, and that's in youth academies and it's in coaching at the highest level, and I think we've been very successful in that, and we're introducing our new youth leagues next year, which is going to make another step forward.
And do you keep a close eye on the likes of what Hibernian's doing and others?
Yes, as I said, top priority, working with the government, Hibs, Hearts, Kilmarnock, Motherwell, they're all doing it now, and I think in the next year we'll see the next stage in the progression, and as I say, speaking with Craig Brown on Friday, he's delighted with the way it's going.
Roger, Scottish football is in transition. Does it have to be this painful?
Yes, I think it does have to be this painful because the state that it was in, you know, 3 or 4 years ago, and the direction it was going was not positive. There's a lot of taboos about what people say the right number of clubs is. I think we have to make a very clear distinction, and this is really important, between investor clubs and clubs that are in it for, let's call it recreation. Until that split is very, very clear in the management of the game, we will struggle.
Roger, Charlie, for the moment, thanks. We've got a game tonight. It's Kilmarnock against Rangers at Rugby Park. Let's get the team news now from David Tanner. David.
Hi there, Jim. Welcome to Rugby Park. Wish you were here. Temperatures are around 70 degrees in Scotland today. We're bathed in sunshine. Looking forward to the match. I can tell you that Ali McCoist returns after injury for Kilmarnock tonight. He's on the bench. Starting up front for Bobby Williamson's side is Andy Smith, who replaces the unwell Christophe Coquard. Now from the Rangers team, which beat Hibernian 5-2 on Wednesday night, Dick Advocat's made 3 changes. That means a first start for teenager Bob Malcolm, and Sergio Perini plays for the first time this year. Well, all of Christophe Coquard's family have been hit by food poisoning, so ex-Dunfermline striker Andy Smith comes in to play alongside Jerome Varai and Paul Wright. The one other change Bobby Williamson makes is to relegate Ali Mitchell to the bench and replace him with Alex Burke in the wide role. Recent Scotland squad call-up Gary Holt and Ian Durrant is in the middle, and no Dindalo, McGowan or Loughlin in the centre-back roles. It's Sean Hesse and Chris Innes there, with Tosh McKinley and Gus McPherson in their usual full-back roles. Well, having failed in a bid to buy Chelsea's Torre Andre Flo, Dick Advocat's now being linked with a move for Lyon's Frederic Canute, who's currently on loan at West Ham United. Rangers want another striker for next season. For now, it's Dodds and McCann in the strikers' jerseys. Top scorer Rod Wallace is, of course, injured. Also crocked today, Amoruso, Moore, Ferguson, Adamchuk, Nicholson, and the on-form from Bronkhorst. Finnish international Tiro Pintila was given a late fitness test, and I can tell you he does play at centre-half alongside 19-year-old Bob Malcolm. The teenager is given his first start tonight. Rangers have Newman, Amoruso and Wilson banned, so Sergio Perini returns to the defence, having missed 29 games with an ankle injury. The Cat would rather have delayed the Italians' comeback. Seb Rosenthal drops to the bench, swapping places with Neil McCann. And I can tell you, in the absence of Amoruso and Newman, it's Jorg Alberts who captains the champions tonight. Jim.
Yes, David. There is Ian Durrant, one of the most popular players in Scottish football. Look at those statistics. 249 league appearances for Rangers, and he's won 19 caps for Scotland. And many people would say he should have won more. And of course, if it hadn't been for serious injury, there's no doubt Ian Durrant would have figured even more prominently in the Rangers' success story in the 80s and the 90s. Well, these days, of course, he skippers Kilmarnock, and he relishes every opportunity he gets to play football.
It's more so to finish with a flurry. It's been a long, hard season for us, and we've got 2 home games, which I'm sure the Killie fans will turn out for, and I'm sure we want to win them. And then we've got a game against Aberdeen, which the boys will look forward to. So we just want to finish with the flourish.
The Cadbucat's resting players at this stage of the season now. Does that offer you more hope getting to the Rangers game?
Because they'll bring in quality players who will replace the players that are out, and he's got a cup final to look forward to. So a few of the boys have been carrying knocks, and I'm sure they want to rest up and make sure they're 100% for the cup final. But it's, the players they bring in are still quality.
How good is this current Rangers team compared to perhaps the one which won the league last season, and of course 3 years ago when you were in the side?
They're a great team. The record shows with the points margin over Celtic. They've got some great individual players, but they've always got a great team unit, which is stood by them this year, and I'm sure they're going to greater things with the additions next year.
What do you think of the midfielders? I mean, how do the midfielders rate in your mind?
Oh, they're all class players. George Alberts, I think, has been invaluable to them. I think it's 16 goals he got. Barry Ferguson is just getting better and better, and obviously Giovanni Van Bronckhorst is a class player as well. But they've got class, not just the midfield all over the place, but the midfield's come in for a lot of attention this year. And, well done to them. I think they've been superb.
You know Barry Ferguson, you remember him as a boot boy at Ibrox. How much do you think he's developed as a player this season? I
think Mr Advocate, I played with him for about a year and a half in reserves, and we got on well, we got on really well, and I think Mr Advocate just smoothed in the rough edges and made him into now the class player we all knew he would be.
Going into this game, Killie know that there is a chance that you can get into Europe through the Fair Play League. Does that mean that make you just hold back on a few of the tackles at this stage of the season when there's nothing at stake?
No, it's not the way to play football. We'll not find out until I think late on if the fair play, if we do get it. But we'll be given it the usual 100%. If you hold back, then you're not doing your job. So that'll not even come into it.
There was disappointment against Hearts last Saturday, but overall the side has seemed to improve in recent weeks. Why do you think that is?
We just we started getting the wee snips about going at, and obviously picking up a few points. And before the winter break, we weren't getting the breaks. And before the break, we had a few games we were coasting, and teams pinned us back, and we lost valuable points. But just after winter break, we seemed now to be a more solid unit, and obviously getting the wins we needed. Setting
aside his miss last Saturday, how important has Paul Wright been, because he's just come back in and he scored a couple of vital goals?
Yes, he's been great. He's a penalty box striker, and as I said, now we're getting the breaks through, and Paul's picked him up, and he's returning goals for the amount of time he's been out injured. Has been fantastic for the club, and obviously he's won us the right few games himself.
How are the old legs yourself? I mean, all the Rangers players have been complaining about getting a rest. You've played a whole pile of games as well. Another set of 2 full seasons in a row for you. How are the legs feeling at this time of year?
They're okay. I'm hanging in, albeit in pieces, but I'm looking forward to it now. I've got 3 games to go. I may not play the whole 3 games. I'm sure if we get a couple of good results in the gaff, I maybe play a couple more youngsters, but I'll recharge in the summer again and look forward to next year. But just now, as it goes, the legs are standing up okay.
One of your old colleagues from the 9 in a row era at Rangers, Gordon Jury, is leaving the club at the end of the season. How much do you think he would have to offer at his stage in his career? It's
a sad day when you leave after being a part of the family now for so long, but it's there's life after Rangers. You have to get on with it, and I'm sure whichever club Dukey goes to will be a great addition. I heard Kilmarnock are in and a few other teams, and I'm sure if he comes here, it'll be a great addition to Kilmarnock or whichever club he chooses.
Sure he will. Kilmarnock against Rangers is on the way. That was Ian Durrant there with David Tanner. Now, when we come back, we'll look at the meetings between the two sides this season. Well, tonight sees the 44th Premier League meeting between Kilmarnock and Rangers. Kilmarnock have won just 7 to Rangers 28. Of the 21 games played at Rugby Park, Kilmarnock have won 4 to Rangers 12. This season, they were pitched together on the opening day at Ibrox.
That's towards Wallace. He's going in for the kill. Can he make it? He can get there, yeah! To Van Bronckhorst, it's a lovely ball and he tries, and there it is. There's the header, Jim. Bit of hesitation and that's it.
So Kilmarnock still to beat Rangers this season in the league. Let's find out if they feel they're in the mood to do it tonight. Their manager Bobby Williamson is with David Tanner.
Bobby, we know that the Rangers players are playing for a place in the cup final. What's motivating the Killie players tonight?
Pride mostly, and to try and climb higher up the table. Obviously, we're 4 points behind Dundee now. We need to get a victory tonight to actually get close to them so we can maybe overtake them, but it's going to be very difficult.
I see you're looking at your team sheet. Christoph Kokard doesn't feature. He made some controversial comments, or at least he was...
Supposedly.
Supposedly, yeah. Anything in that? Is that why he was dropped?
Not at all. He's not dropped. He's ill. He's went down with some sickness, and his whole family's got it. And that's the reason he's out. But as I said, no, I don't believe I've got reading papers, unfortunately, for Christoph neither does he, because he said he'd been misquoted and it's been taken out of context and stuff like that. The usual stuff you get for players when they want to deny something. But I certainly believe him, and that's the way it should be.
What's the approach going to be tonight for your team?
Well, hopefully we can get at Rangers and cause them problems and hopefully create chances and score goals, but we're not treating it lightly by any stretch of imagination. Rangers are champions and deservedly so. They've been very, very good this season, even better than last year. And they'll get the respect they deserve, but we've really got to try and impose ourselves on them and try and, to say, create problems and score goals.
Can I ask you about the Fair Play League? Now that's a very confusing situation. You could get into Europe on the back of this. Do you understand how it works and it will affect your players? Will they be going in and not going with as many tackles tonight?
No, they'll not be holding back. They can't hold back. If I feel anybody's holding back, they'll not be on the park. They'll come off and somebody else will get a chance. I said we've got to be committed and we've got to go and win tackles and win the ball and hopefully, as I said, create chances. But the fair play doesn't just all concern about players tackling. It goes to how you treat officials, and there's all loads of things that come into consideration before you actually win this award.
Far too complex for anyone to understand. Bobby, thanks.
Cheers.
Bobby Williamson with David Tanner. Charlie, what should we expect tonight? Should we sit back and just be entertained?
I think so. A lot of people in football terms will say meaningless games. They're already champions and Kilmarnock are now out of danger of relegation. But I think you try telling some of the youngsters are playing tonight, the young kid Malcolm who's coming in at a defence at Rangers. Some of these players are playing, they're on the fringe, they're playing for cup final spots. And of course Kilmarnock are trying the same thing, young Innes, Hesse playing there. Vital, a lot of things vital for these kids. There's a future for them. Rangers playing for their sport. So it's certainly going to be a game, I think, which will be typical of the night. It is splendid sunshine. There'll be a lot of good passing, a lot of decent movement. But I think we'll get decent quality tonight. I think Kilmarnock are that type of team anyway.
And Roger, we touched on this earlier tonight, of course, at the top of the show. Youngsters getting a chance tonight. And this is what you want to see in the SPL, isn't it?
That's right. Obviously tonight there's not much at stake apart from the 60 grand per place in the SPL. But Charlie's right, there's some youngsters out there tonight that will hopefully get a chance to position themselves for next year.
Do you enjoy watching football? I know you're so engrossed in it, but do you enjoy watching a match start to finish?
Well, to be here and be able to see the game is fantastic, and really for a football fan like myself, it's a privilege to be involved with the SPL, and hopefully next season will be even better again. And Charlie, if you're Dick Advocat, what you're saying to your Rangers players tonight, go out and impress me, and then we'll maybe think about you in the cup final.
Yeah, well, I think the bulk of the team is already picked, but you know, you never know what you're going to pick up. They're still waiting on Craig Moore to come back from injury. Amarusso's had suspensions and different things. You've just got to keep the whole thing ticking over for another 3 weeks. Saying that, Roger was just telling me there, for every position that you go up in this league, for instance, Kilmarnock in 9th at the moment, for every position you go up, it's an extra nearly £60,000, so good incentive money-wise also.
Mr. SPL Chief Executive, do you have a prediction for us tonight?
I bet he goes for a draw, I bet you.
Bet you go for a draw.
2 each.
2 each, okay. Okay. Our thanks to you, Roger. Thanks for joining us tonight. Let's get to kick-off now at Rugby Park.